Whether long gone or still existing in some form today, this Stuview TV video takes a fond look back at those restaurants and cafes that evoke such nostalgic memories. From Berni Inn and Little Chef to Wimpy and Golden Egg, these are the restaurants of the past that we used to love. For countless people across the UK, the name Berni Inn still conjures up a fond, warm glow of nostalgia.
Tennis champions eat at Berni Inns. They like the first-class service.
Right, let's go.
But what everyone likes at Berni Inns are the tender Berni steaks. There's a place for you at your Berni Inn. Why not join the Berni set?
In an era when dining out was often a rare treat, these restaurants offered an affordable slice of 70s sophistication. The story began in 1956 when brothers Frank and Aldo Berni opened their first steakhouse in Bristol. Their idea was to bring the American steakhouse experience to the UK, but with a distinctly British twist. To say this idea worked would be an understatement. By the mid-70s, the Berni Inn empire had expanded to over 150 locations. The menu itself was a familiar but comforting delight. A typical three-course meal would see you start with a prawn cocktail, followed by that magnificent main course, a perfectly cooked steak served with a generous helping of chips and peas. And to finish, well, it had to be Black Forest Gatto, surely. But the food was only part of the story. The atmosphere captured our hearts too. The dimly lit, often wood-panelled interiors, the bare varnished tables, the plush maroon banquettes. This familiarity made a Berni Inn feel comfortable, yet still somehow special. Sadly, as often happens, the Berni Inn chain couldn't keep up with changing tastes and a new wave of restaurant chains. The last Berni Inn closed its doors in the early 1990s, but the memories continue to remain strong. For many families, a long road trip wasn't complete without seeing that famous red and white Little Chef sign on the horizon. It all began back in 1958 when Peter Marchant and Sam Alper, inspired by the American diners they had seen on their travels, created their own roadside eatery in Reading with seats for just 11 customers. Spurred by the ever-growing number of motorists in the UK, the pair soon boasted a chain of reliable, affordable roadside restaurants. As for the menu, many people will likely remember the Olympic breakfast with much fondness. It was a true behemoth of a full English, enough to power you through the rest of your journey and beyond. And who could forget those Jubilee pancakes, with a warm cherry filling and served with a portion of ice cream.
Well, I'd like eggs and bacon, I'd like toasted jam, I'd like prawns and salmon, 'cause we're all Little Chef fans. Well, I'd like chips and burgers, I'd like cottage cheese,
I'd like a cherry pancake.
make mine a special, please. Well, we like shakes and ice cream, I'd like tea and buns. That's what the Little Chef serves me. Little Chef's lots more fun.
What would they like then?
Well, they'd like eggs and bacon, they'd like toasted jam.
In addition to the food, it was the little details that mattered at Little Chef, the complimentary newspapers, and the free lollipop for younger diners on the way out. Small but memorable touches. At its peak, there were over 400 Little Chef restaurants, and it seemed like they would be a permanent fixture on Britain's roads. But as our eating habits changed and fast food chains began to dominate, Little Chef struggled to keep up, and the company began to cut costs and increase prices. The last of the original Little Chef restaurants closed its doors in 2018. For many of us, the sight of that Little Chef logo will forever evoke the warm feeling of family holidays, long car journeys, and the simple joy of a good old-fashioned fry-up. While Little Chef was arguably king of the road, there was another similar chain competing for our attention, one that prided itself on being a true family destination: Happy Eater. Happy Eater arrived on the scene in 1973, founded by Sir Michael Pickard, who wanted to create a roadside restaurant that was even more family focused than its main rival. What truly set Happy Eater apart from the rest was its commitment to keeping younger travellers entertained. While Mum and Dad were enjoying a moment of peace, kids could be found on the outdoor playgrounds, often featuring fiberglass animal figures, from elephants to crocodiles. The menu was just as cheerful as the decor, featuring British classics like fish and chips and all-day breakfasts, but also special treats for the kids. What child could forget the excitement of a Dog's Delight hot dog or a Mr. Happy's ice cream sundae? And to top it all off, many children would also leave with a button badge proudly proclaiming, "I'm a Happy Eater." At its peak, there were around 75 Happy Eater locations dotted around the country. In 1986, the chain was bought by Trust House Forte, who also owned Little Chef. 10 years later, Trust House Forte was purchased by Granada, who decided to focus on a single brand, leading to the majority of Happy Eater sites being converted into Little Chefs. For a certain generation of rail travellers, the sight of a Casey Jones burgers was just as comforting as a Little Chef or Happy Eater sign was for motorists. In the days of British Rail, if you needed a quick bite before boarding a train or after a long journey, the name Casey Jones was always a welcome sight on the concourse of mainline stations. Named after the legendary American railroad engineer and folk hero, the first Casey Jones opened in London's Waterloo Station in 1980. This wasn't an American import, it was a British operation created by British Rail's own catering arm, Travellers' Fare. The restaurants themselves had a lively, if no frills, charm, with their red, white and yellow colours standing out on the platform. They had a distinctive functional feel where you'd queue up for a burger and chips, often clutching your ticket and keeping an eye on the departure board. The menu was straightforward but just right, consisting mainly of burgers, fries and soft drinks. It was a reliable, quick and comforting bit of sustenance before embarking on a journey. In 1993, a deal was struck which would see Burger King open outlets in many rail stations, with Casey Jones sites eventually converted into branches of the global giant. Although a selection of branches still survive today, the Wimpy name is often the first to be mentioned when conversation turns to nostalgic memories of the restaurant chains we used to frequent during the 70s and 80s. Rather than McDonald's or Burger King, it was actually Wimpy that pioneered the burger revolution in the UK, with the first Wimpy opening inside the famous Lion's Corner House in Coventry Street, London, back in 1954. In its heyday of the 70s and 80s, Wimpy wasn't just fast food, it was a proper sit-down restaurant experience. Forget paper wrappers and plastic trays, you were served your burger on a real plate with proper cutlery. In terms of the menu, most will likely remember the Wimpy burger, but how about the Bender, now called the Bendy, a lightly spiced pork frankfurter artfully shaped to fit a hamburger bun. And then there were the desserts. The Brown Derby, a warm donut topped with ice cream, or the magnificent Knickerbocker Glory. Finally, to wash it all down, a famously thick Whipsy milkshake. At its peak, there were over 500 Wimpy restaurants across the UK, a fixture on high streets up and down the country. But then in the mid-70s, a new kind of burger experience arrived, one with convenient counter service. The arrival of McDonald's and Burger King changed the game forever. Wimpy tried to adapt, but its table service model was slowly squeezed out by the new, faster over-the-counter giants. Today, just over 50 Wimpys still exist across the country, serving up those classic burgers to a new generation and offering a taste of the past to those of us who remember their heyday with much fondness.
Ain't no use in staying at home. I know what you should do. come on over to my place. Hey you, we're having a wimpy, we'll be swinging, dancing and singing. Come on over tonight. Won't you come on over tonight? Yeah, 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 yeah.
While the majority of us are familiar with the Wimpy brand, the name Golden Egg may not be as familiar. However, for those of us who had the pleasure of eating at one of these slightly quirky restaurants, the memories remain strong. One of the UK's first national restaurant chains, Golden Egg was founded in the early 60s by the Kay brothers, who had started their careers in the restaurant industry by running Wimpy franchises. The often egg-shaped menus were equally as memorable, offering a mix of classic British favourites and unique dishes. Not surprisingly, Golden Egg were famous for their range of egg-based dishes, offering a large selection of omelettes and other simple fare such as egg and bacon and fried egg and chips. Fancy something a bit more substantial? No problem, you could always get a sirloin steak. One of Golden Egg's most famous offerings was the Jamaican longboat dessert, a split banana topped with ice cream, fruit and fresh whipped cream. If, like me, you weren't a fan of bananas, your dessert of choice would probably have been the Alaskan Delight, a dish of ice cream topped with either hot chocolate sauce or maple syrup. Sadly, by the mid-1980s, the Golden Egg chain had largely disappeared, with many of the restaurants converted into new brands. The very first Pizzaland opened its doors in London in 1970, quickly becoming a staple of high streets across the country. With their bright, cheerful colours and lively atmosphere, Pizzaland restaurants felt like a special treat. Indeed, for many, Pizzaland was the start of a love affair with pizza.
We'll have a deep pan, ham and mushroom, with extra cheese, tomato, pepperoni, olives, peppers and onions.
At Pizzaland, we've got a passion for pizza, so everyone is custom built.
Ham and mushroom with extra cheese and tomato.
And chicken and mushroom with green peppers, onions, sliced tomatoes.
Pizzaland, we've got a passion for pizza.
In the 1980s, in a bid to boost revenue, the chain launched its famous Pizza for a Penny campaign, offering discount coupons in national newspapers, allowing customers to buy one pizza at normal price and a second for just 1 pence. Hugely successful for a time, the scheme eventually backfired on the company. By the mid-90s, many customers were so used to the offer, they refused to dine at Pizzaland without a voucher, and the chain began to struggle. After being purchased by Whitbread in 1996, many Pizzaland branches were converted to Pizza Hut, while others became Bella Pasta.
Deep Pan Pizzaland.
Pizzaland.
Pearly strings, lots of things.
Pizzaland.
Glass of wine, salad time.
Pizzaland.
Pizzas galore and a whole lot more.
If you were looking for a quick, comforting and delicious meal while out shopping, there was one name that was always a favourite: Spud U Like. The story began in Edinburgh in 1974 when Spud U Like was founded by Kim Cully and Barbara Kane. The concept proved to be a huge hit, and Spud U Like outlets soon became a fixture in shopping centres and high streets up and down the country, hitting the peak of their popularity during the 80s and 90s, having been acquired by the British School of Motoring in 1979. The variety of delicious toppings for your jacket potato was extensive, from the classic cheese and beans to tuna mayonnaise, coronation chicken and chili con carne. It was fast food that felt wholesome and genuinely satisfying. The company went into administration in August 2019, with all branches closing. However, just over a month later, the chain was purchased by potato giant Albert Bartlett, and a small number of outlets reopened. In 2021, the Spud U Like menu underwent a complete rebrand in conjunction with chef James Martin. Before Costa or Starbucks, there was National Milk Bars. The National Milk Bars chain was the brainchild of Welsh dairy farmer Robert William Griffiths in 1933. His idea was to sell his farm's produce directly to the public through a chain of clean, modern cafes. While the name said National, the branches were mainly found in North Wales and the northwest of England, and they quickly became a much-loved regional institution. In their heyday of the 70s and 80s, these places were a haven from the hustle and bustle of the high street. During the 60s, the National Milk Bar in Lime Street, Liverpool, was sometimes frequented by the Beatles, leading to a sharp upturn in teenage custom. Over time, the rise of modern coffee shop chains led to the slow decline of the National Milk Bars. However, there is one last outpost of this much-loved brand still standing. In Ellesmere Port, the last remaining National Milk Bar continues to serve a steady stream of loyal customers. It stands as a testament to the fact that for many of us, the simple things in life will always be the best. I'd love to hear your memories of the eateries that have been featured today. Also, are there any other restaurants you would like to see in a future video? Do please let me know in the comments. As always, many thanks for watching, and do join me next time for more nostalgic goodness.